You ready?
Ayo.
You got your cereal on board?
I'm done.
Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I am Lopez. This is Lopez Radio. Joining me tonight is my lovely wife, Krista.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm here.
Doing all right? Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show, everyone. Social media is Lopez Radio, and the show is found on lopezradio.com. It's been a little while since we've done one of these. Hot minute.
Were we parents?
We are parents.
No. Were we the last time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've done one or two since then.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
We were flipping through things on HBO and came across a documentary, and I noticed the person that's the main person in the documentary, which is Andrew Callaghan, and it's called This Place Rules. And I thought, what a fitting Friday night it would be, 2 years after the insurrection, exactly. Mm-hmm. And why not sit around and watch that? Some light viewing for the evening.
Some light viewing
for a Friday night
to celebrate this anniversary for our great nation. I took notes.
You did take notes.
I have a nice, oddly specific notebook that I was gifted that is now completely full of notes on this one damn movie.
You were like writing your term paper over there.
No. You told me to only take bullet points, not realizing I had only taken bullet points.
I'm all bullet points.
Like, I was a history major. I know how to note take. There was just too much shit to cover in this movie because it went from jump interview to jump interview.
Crazy person to crazy person.
How many interviews do you think they genuinely showed on that screen in 90 minutes?
Yeah, it was about 90 minutes. There were probably, if I had to ballpark it, 75, 80 different people he probably talked to.
Easily.
Yeah, because there's a lot of man on the street stuff. So Andrew Callaghan.
I'm gonna guess it was closer to 100, maybe even a little more, because I definitely know he fit 2 or 3 in each minute. Yeah. Several times.
So Andrew Callaghan, he does I got the wrong thing. I'm grabbing the wrong deal.
Where?
There it is. Okay. Better. Wiser.
Where'd you learn how to do this again?
I don't know. Nowhere good. So Andrew Callaghan is
sorry.
Why you do this to me?
Sometimes your self-deprecation just catches me in that giggle spot. Sorry.
So anyway,
Andrew Callaghan.
Cut point.
Got it.
Andrew Callaghan is someone who is a pretty big personality on YouTube. He does a little bit of an intro in the documentary. You know, he started off just by, as a college student going down and talking to people in New Orleans at 2 a.m. and getting them to confess things. He turned that into a
which I did not like. I did not appreciate that at all. I was like, that's kind of shitty.
People love that stuff, though. People love those confessions.
Some of those people were telling...
Taxi Cab Confessions was one of the biggest HBO shows ever.
Fine. Like, it's still exploitive, and you're not supposed to be able to sign a contract of agreement or consent when you're under the influence of anything, which all of those people were.
For sure.
So I think it
it's also early,
tap dances on the grave of consent there.
It was like early Instagram days. Like this is quite a few years ago. So he just to kind of get us up to speed to where we're at now.
Okay. Well, before we even get into this, like, please tell me, with the silly format that you usually run on the show and the silliness that you are around us and our family and the silliness that you are on your stream, that you're not going to be some straight lace. We're going to go by the book and like really, really stick to something on this.
I'm literally trying. It's just for anybody who doesn't know who he is. I'm trying to set it up real quick.
Okay. It was about like a hard steer of the ship. And I was like, do I have no creative freedom here?
I told you before we even came down here that I was going to introduce who he is before we get into it.
I know, but it just I thought my goofy husband was going to come out and do that.
Okay.
Maybe shit talk. his bad moral values in the early 2000s with me.
No, because that would create a whole different episode.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to keep it to at least around this guy and the documentary.
This is a good point because we touch on that at the end too.
Well, because I also see that book and I feel like we're gonna be here for 3 hours. So Andrew Callaghan. So from the Instagram thing, he graduated college and decided to hit the road and interview people at fringe events, stuff like that. So he made this commercial, this channel on YouTube called All Gas No Brakes. It was wildly successful. It did really well. He actually ended up losing the channel because he signed a deal with a bigger media company, and when he signed it, he didn't have anybody to tell him right from wrong, and when he did that, they ended up owning all of his content. So he had to restart it. Now he runs a channel called Channel 5, which is amazing. So if you get a chance to check out Channel 5 on YouTube, he just does crazy interviews, and he's really, really good at it. So we get into this documentary. It's basically presented to you in the trailer as the events, or at least like events that happened leading up to January 6th, 2021. And I gotta say, like, it's very impressive. Like, I'm a big fan of his style anyway. You kind of called it out at one point. You were like, you just leave the microphone in their face, and if you just hush, and they will keep talking. And I brought up the point, it was like a lot like sales. First person to talk loses kind of thing.
Yeah.
What were your first impressions of it?
They open with these guys that feel like family members to me.
Which one? Both?
Both. A little
really?
of both.
Which one more, Gum or Joker?
Gum, definitely more of a family member than Joker. Joker's, you can't have tattoos in my family, so sorry, Lopez.
Shout out Gum Gang. Shout out Gum Gang.
A Gum Gang. Somebody, like his one buddy that was trying to keep him from getting in a real fist fight on like a basketball court in the dark or some shit, put his like knuckles into his chest at one point. And I didn't even write this part down, but like I watched Gum Gang's chest. I'm not trying to talk shit on this man, but I watched his chest.
But watch me talk shit on this man.
His chest, this is coming from a chubby girl. Watched his chest absorb that man's fist.
At least a half of it, right?
And he's like skinny. He's skinny too. He's skinny fat. He's skinny fat. So he's got like full on mutton chops. He's got backwards redneck hat. He's got, maybe a few less teeth than you're supposed to. Like,
these two were,
and he talked just like two of my cousins at least.
These two were the full spectrum, but the full spectrum of Florida trash. I mean, like you say they feel like family members, but man, they're as Florida as they come.
I grew up in South Georgia, which we call North Florida. So it was pretty spot on. And so we saw this one guy who is Joker something or another on Joker Gang on his tag. Jeremy has this shit memorized. I had to take notes.
Gum Gang, and Joker Gang. They're Mr. and Mr. Gang.
Joker Gang is fully tatted up to look like Heath Ledger Joker. Like face tattoos to make him look like the makeup from the movie, along with green hair, and he wears purple suspenders and a bunch of other bullshit. And my very first note on the whole movie, I didn't even write down the name of the movie, went Joker 100% serious.
1,000. There's some people where you're just kind of like, look at this actor, but you were like, no, this guy is absolutely out of his fucking mind.
Himself 100,000% seriously.
Yeah.
Like he's putting up with no bullshit. He has no fucks to give. He is who he is.
Living his best life.
At first I judged.
His only life.
At first I judged, and by the end of the movie I respected. So it was a hard turn for me. I don't know how. I kind of feel a little lost in my own self-identification with these guys.
Right. So if you were to place Joker Gang's presence on the documentary all in one shot, he turned her around in about 10 minutes.
No, less. I think it was like
minutes?
6.
But where did he turn you around when he was giving his commentary on the January 6th people?
We'll get there.
Right.
Okay. So and Gum, whatever his name is, Gum Gang,
Mr. and Mr. Gang. The twist is they're married to each other.
No, they're not. I have him noted as Junebug tattoo because he has what looks like I swear it looked like a scarab tattoo with butterfly wings. But Jeremy went, is that a June bug? And I couldn't stop thinking of him as Junebug in my head. I was like, what a cute nickname for this dumb motherfucker. His name is Junebug now.
Well, the whole time I was thinking, how much more perfect would it have been if he'd just gotten a cicada tattooed?
I mean, it could have been a cicada. Do you know how often I see them not in shells?
Cicada gang!
Cicada gang, holding up. And then my next note is red hearts with quotes around it, because they hate each other now because Joker put red hearts in Gum Gang's girlfriend's DMs.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And 19 people said the phrase red hearts, and I was like, aren't all hearts fucking red? In my head I was like, is there a significance to the other color hearts that you can? I
think there is, right?
I know you can electively choose other hearts and emojis, but like nobody's schooled me on the meaning of them. What did I do? Did I break your podcast?
No,
okay.
It's just my dumb computer. Go ahead.
Okay. But like no one schooled me on the meaning of the other emoji hearts or emoticon hearts. I don't even know the difference.
Yeah.
And so everybody said red hearts, red hearts, red hearts, red hearts. And the filmmaker made it a point to stack that back to back to back to show how stupid it was.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. So then...
So essentially, it opens up with these two guys who are wannabe YouTube influencers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they have a pretty good follow. They have more followers than I do.
Let me get past the intro before he says this will make a good intro. And then the next scene you see is some white trash ringside girl at a fight between Gum Gang and Joker Gang.
There you go.
I got it. It is a straight up ring. It looks legit. Might be a Wild Bill's in Georgia somewhere. And there is a girl who had bad extensions and a bad bleach job shaking her ass as a ringside girl for...
Yeah, she was twerking. You could tell she was like, she worked at a strip club that was, maybe not doing so well.
A B level.
Yeah.
A B level.
Yeah. Maybe she used day squad in a decent place, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I just wrote down, I want my daughter to know she's loved. So, yeah.
We love you. Please don't shake your ass in a ring for a fight between Gum Gang and Joker Gang.
No, there's so much better attention to get in the world. Anyway, so that's where the filmmaker breaks in.
Yeah, that's where he opened up. So
those are my notes on the beginning.
He kind of opened up with this thing, and I think it threw a lot of people for a loop. I've been watching some interviews with Andrew Callaghan because he's been doing the media circuit. Because this just came out on the 30th, I believe, just before New Year's, and they're like, "Why did you open with that?" And they even had the segment in the movie, so I don't even know why people ask him about it, but. He's like, it's just a fight, like the election. He's like, they're like, how does it relate to the election of 2020? He's like, because it's a fight. It's two people fighting.
They want a deeper meaning, and I have my guesses as to what that. I do think there might be behind that because they kind of spell it out at the end.
It's all
yeah, like
it's also just great content.
It's great content. Another moment that we will get to that everybody has questions about. And you're just like, it's fucking great content. Get over yourself, you fucking waspy twats. Like.
So go ahead and set the scenes. You're the one that took the bullet notes, so I want to hit your points because I literally wanted to watch this to see your reaction and to talk to you about it. So
okay, so like Andrew Callaghan kind of introduces his movie and starts talking about like the riots that came out of some police brutality shit that happened prior to the 2020 election. We're in the midst of COVID, like. Had a few cop murders and like lots of burnings of buildings in Minnesota. We all have fun with that.
A lot of his documenting it's basically starting right as the pandemic is getting underway and we're going into the BLM protests.
Well, I feel like he starts like deeper into it than that. Like he starts his real documentary like 6-8 months into the pandemic. Like I think he started it in October was the first time stamp.
Yeah, I think it was the first time stamp.
Yeah, so the pandemic kicked off in March, riots were in the summer, like all the police brutality shit happened then and continued to happen a little whiles after that. Wiles word, that's a real word.
Wiles.
I said wiles.
Truthin'.
Yeah, we'll talk about truthin' later.
All right, so
anyway, he introduces a looter that's standing outside a burning ass building, and the looters basically like arguing their plight and police brutality, and they've been wronged by the system, and they're struggling. It's not great points.
It's
not invalid shit. Like it's experiences that many of us will never have and never be able to identify with. So it's not invalid in my opinion, but it's not great points either.
Yeah, it's a clip from one of his bigger videos where he's interviewing Black Lives Matter looters and protesters.
And then, like, after that very short clip, 15 seconds maybe, he he lines together several anti-vax screaming white, like, privileged, clean, daylighted protesters that are under no duress, screaming about the discomfort they have in their lives, which to me was an interesting juxtaposition of someone literally like burning down buildings to be heard about the injustices in their world. Not the greatest approach in my opinion. However, I have no better one, so I should shut the hell up. I usually feel like versus people who definitely have never not known where their next meal was coming from. So
you can't out crazy.
Yeah. But that was, and I shouldn't, I think the whole point is to not compare these people, is to show they're pitted against each other. Like by showing how different we are, or how many things like one side is trying to take from the other. And that's what gets like set up in the beginning to show how the media on both sides grabbed hold of those images and those differences and dragged those two people as far apart as they could get them.
Yeah.
Like
how do we silo this section of people off into being someone we can make money off of or make ad revenue off of, basically.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting money from that person, but they're getting money from the advertisers. So that whole adage of, if you're not buying a product, you're the product kind of thing. It's very much this vibe you're getting.
And we've seen that most certainly in the last 5 years, harder than we've ever seen it in the American public before. The Andrew Callaghan, the movie maker, he noted that during the pandemic lockdown, which was a fantastic point I hadn't thought of, our news cycle replaced reality TV. Like we couldn't, like, reality TV networks and all these side networks and all these little threads that everybody follows day to day to keep them occupied, they all shut down. So everyone turned to the news together, collectively.
Well, into dark little corners of social media.
But we haven't gotten there yet. Like,
sure.
the echo chambers had not fully developed so far. So like the first thing everybody turned to was the news. So you have your right and your left news on the mainstream sides, and each of them tried to grab hold of their respective viewers as hard as they could and separate them and hold them, hold their attention and hold their panic and hold their fear and market to it, because news viewership went up markedly during COVID because no reality TV shows, nothing else to do. Everybody's home, stuck, watching fucking TV. And Tucker Carlson shoots to the top of the damn charts in news media.
But it was yeah, you can say pandemic definitely helped that. It was already kind of being, in my opinion, ingested because we had such craziness going on in Washington at the time. Yeah. Even before the pandemic.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, we were already all feeling that overwhelming sense. Everybody I know whose opinion I trust, overwhelming sense of dread for the 3 years preceding that. Absolutely 100%.
The news media has always been very good at finding what works for the group that they're catering to. And they were in full swing of that just with politics. And now the pandemic at this point is now another thing. They can be like, oh, well, this is a side for these people and this is a side for these people. And honestly, like, it's so easy to see it once you see it, and you're kind of like, ugh, I can't.
I mean, and I feel like even though you and I have talked about it so many times, and I feel like we see it, like, I still feel like I get trick fucked sometimes. Like, I still feel like they bait my ass, and I'm like, I bet shit. Now I'm in a net. Like, it's frustrating because
it's a constant battle.
Well, I mean, nobody's coming nobody's coming with good intentions anymore. Like everybody's just coming to sell an advertisement.
Yeah, there's very little. I was noticing that I mean, I say today, but I noticed that like whenever I've been lately, like I told you, trying to just kind of limit when I don't jump on and off of social media, and sometimes it gets you, and you're like, by the time you realize, you're like, wow, this is just like the most negative thing I've been a part of today. Like, and it's an easy pitfall. Like I know in my head, I was like, Twitter's a terrible place.
Yeah,
it's not a real place, but it's a terrible place, right? But it's still, you're just kind of like, oh man,
that's the way I feel about Reddit.
And so you just start pulling. You find it's like finding a thread, and you're like, what is this attached to? And you just start following the thread, and
that's the way I feel about Reddit. Like, I mean, I have not had Reddit. I have not even checked Reddit daily, or I think I haven't even checked it twice.
You haven't sent a Reddit link, which is your du jour for a long time. Yeah. In a long time, you had to take it off your phone.
It's been over 6 months since I did that.
There was a point where you were like, this is really affecting me.
It was. I mean, and I think that's kind of what the point is.
Yeah.
Like, and so I have made better use of my time now.
You cold turkeyed it, right?
Yeah. I just took it off one day. It was weird. I went to Pinterest instead. Now I just feel like inadequate instead of angry all the time.
Now I need to spend $150 on these yarn balls to go into a bowl.
I told you today I wanted to make what are they, the paper chains, the construction paper chains for our daughter's birthday party coming up.
I'm always like, I was like, that's nice, honey.
You just look at me.
That sounds good.
All my little lofty Pinterest goals now, and you're like, oh, it's better than her reporting. Like,
her Pinterest board looks like a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
There's yarn.
Jeremy's just happy to like not hear about another like family annihilator or police shooting in a major metropolitan area that could have been prevented that I get real angry about. Like,
well, it's kind of crazy, like, and because I only want to like discuss this. We don't, we're obviously going to talk about the documentary, but like this kind of ties into it. It's kind of crazy, like what little things that apps like that will figure out. Okay, this person is clicking on this stuff more, so even though you were a lurker and didn't even have an account, the app knows what to push up in front of you that you're going to be like, ooh, I'm clicking this. Even if you're looking at r/all, even if you're looking at like, whatever. And it's just amazing because like something that can go viral can be anything from an actual news article to just a picture.
Yeah.
To a picture of a comment someone made on something.
Oh, right? Yeah. No, I get pictures of comments on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. It's nuts.
So I noted like with the pandemic shutdown of our reality TV, we were left to our own devices within social media and the news cycle, and it just swirled like a hurricane. Like,
I think about that a lot too, in the lens of we had a great time.
Yeah, me and you did
during it, and so we
changed our whole lives in a great way.
But like I think about how many people like they had their little pods they were working with, but man, they were like I think at night when the sun goes down and everything's quiet, like a lot of people were just at home with their computer or with their
a lot of family people, a lot of people with careers and pensions and families. Just sitting there
in their phones,
not finding anything better to do than follow Alex Jones and buy dick pills. Like, try to invest in gold somewhere. Like, it's just insane.
I've got family where it was like, I was even telling you, I was like, I might need to go and like do like an intervention. Like I might have to go. I had people coming up to me.
I kind of wish you had.
I mean, you had people would check in and be like, "Hey, is so and so okay? They're posting some crazy shit online."
Yeah,
like,
I kind of wish you'd done that intervention.
That would have been nice, right?
All right, so the movie, and when left to our own devices, we turn on each other. Talking about social media and shit. Then we move to an interview with a man called the Inglorious Patriot.
Yes.
He's not allowed to leave the state. We got a note on later.
Yeah.
So he wasn't allowed to go to the January 6th.
So this guy
lives in a trailer. He is a Vietnam veteran.
Off the grid.
Vietnam vet because he enlisted in '69 and swore to protect the country under all of the I believe the Marine Code of Conduct was what he quoted. But
I believe he listed off the 12 or 13 YouTube channels he had in the past.
11 was the number he noted.
Well, no, he said I had this one, and this one, and
he said I'm up to 10 or 11.
He settled on a name. He said I had this 1, 2, 3, and now I'm up to 11 on that one title, like sequels, like Rambo 5. Like,
okay, I didn't get that.
So, but yeah, he has like 12 or 13 YouTube channels that have now been taken away from him.
Okay, my very first note on this man, like. The first thing he started talking about was cabals and pedophiles. And my very first note under the name Inglorious Patriot is this man may have a dirty computer.
Yeah. This man's got something going on.
The pin on his hat as he discusses the whole government is corrupt and not going to do anything for us is a Donald Trump hair piece on top of a Punisher logo that is background in the American flag.
Sure. Yeah, an American flag patterned skull.
So the whole government's corrupt, but I'm also a Trump shill. I like this guy.
I saw a Punisher.
I don't like this Inglorious dipshit guy, but he sounds like people I've heard talk before, which scared me. But there's so many problems you can obviously see going on here. Yeah. And he's creepy.
I can't remember. It might come to me later, but I saw a Punisher skull the other day that made me like turn my head. It wasn't even like it was political. It was like a Punisher skull with something that was like so not Punisher.
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh, a thin blue line maybe?
No, it wasn't that.
If you see a Punisher skull with a thin blue line, realize that person never read or watched The Punisher.
Yeah, just thinks that skull looks cool is basically all it is.
Yeah, because Punisher don't like cops, y'all. That's kind of the point. Anyway, so we move to the rally in D.C. There is one silly vanilla white boy that is on a megaphone screaming to high heaven to anyone who will listen. And the second a camera gets pointed to him and a mic is given to him, he goes, "No, I don't want to talk." And that made me laugh.
Yeah.
There is a Native woman who is... we
assume, yeah.
I think she's... Yeah. They position her as a Native woman because she's screaming about cultural appropriation from the left side of the argument, obviously, in somebody's face because there's some right-wing people there playing drums. Yeah. It's not a good look for either side, in my opinion. Yeah,
it was more of a... like it's that whole shouting down thing. Mm-hmm. And essentially, he even said, like, I went to this first little rally, whatever, protest, and it just was people screaming at each other.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
as loud as they could.
That's what protesting to be. So I had some empathy for her because there's a bunch of people that really want white culture to be preserved there when it's not being threatened, and she's angry because we've eradicated a shit ton of cultures right here on our front doorstep. So I have empathy for her, but her approach certainly did not work.
Yeah, it was like, it felt like, and I know obviously we only saw that snippet of them.
She had passion for it, but like she didn't have the basis to fully argue a coherent point on it, and also she's arguing with dipshits who it's never going to matter.
There's that,
so
and
it was like
there's the
a couple
fact
of
that it kind of reeked of like her being like, what can I get onto this guy about? Oh, he's beating on a drum that's, a deerskin drum.
She was looking for, like, she was ready to scold, basically. And I mean, all those people deserve a scolding. Don't get me wrong. Like, I totally feel that way. But what's going to be effective for change, and I think a big part of effective change is also realizing who you can't change and not waste your time on them. Anyway, so we have her, then we have a feminist pop up, and she's an insane person. And I told you,
she's like
she made one good point that Donald Trump's mistresses had a bunch of abortions, and that was the very first point she made. And then they went to like a talking head actual interview with her in a library or some shit.
She asked the question, how many of his old girlfriends do you think had abortions?
And it silenced this dude beating a drum that the Native woman didn't like immediately. I'm gonna call her the Native woman. She may not be. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but
the Inglorious Patriot's friend from Alaska.
Yeah, he was
Dick
that
from Alaska.
Yeah, he was buddies with this guy from North Carolina that couldn't leave the state. So anyway, so the feminist comes in, she says this shit about abortions to the other, Trumpy guy, and he is befuddled. He starts tripping over his words, but then they cut to a talking head with her, and I was like, oh shit, she's about to go crazy. crazy, isn't she?
Yeah, I was about to say
immediately she did.
I was about to say beautiful placement of where they dropped this interview in with this lady who just
they baited us so many times. It was great.
I think it's just brilliant to be like, oh man, look at this crazy inglorious patriot guy, right? Saying some crazy shit. Look at his friend who's talking about globalists, and then when he's asked what globalists are, he can't even tell us what globalists are. And then you start talking to this person, you're kind of like, it's the opposite. Like, it's the absolute most insane person you could find. Yeah, on the other side, they're as crazy as each other. They just have different like little prophets they're holding up.
Yeah, and my favorite part, I think, about the whole way he made this film was, I called it baiting, but that's not quite right. It was more like teasing. Like, he teased.
Very good misdirection.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even call it full misdirection because he just turns it on his head.
Sleight of hand.
He turns it on his head so fast. Like, you don't even really get a chance to see it coming. Like, he teases you with a point you could possibly see the logic in very quickly, very succinctly, and then immediately shows you how fucking crazy the person making it is. It's like the people that are like, well, Hitler didn't have all bad ideas.
Right.
And he's just like, watch how crazy this motherfucker is, though. Watch what you, like, pay attention to who you agree with.
Right.
Like, it's
it's like someone comes in to train you on how to use Adobe Photoshop, right? And they're like, here's how you do this. And you're like, oh my God, this person's teaching me some great stuff. This is really awesome. And then they're like, all right, I hope you have a good day. And they reach into their bag and they pull out a tinfoil hat and they put it on and they're like, see ya. You're like, what? This person's crazy. He's like, be sure to hide your money in your wallets. Have a good day.
Okay, so yeah, like I just noted, the feminist gets her talking head, and she immediately just starts personal appearance attacks on Donald Trump because she doesn't know how to argue very well.
Oh yeah, it's it gets to the point of like the shape of his penis, like it's weird.
I forgot about that, but yeah, like she went for his hair, his gut, his like everything, his food choices, his dick,
height,
like,
which he lies
his
about,
height, his hands, like, and don't get me wrong, all of those things are fucking hilarious to make fun of him for. I don't like the man, but if you're making a coherent argument, not helping your case.
Well, here's the thing: they can be funny. They weren't funny coming out of her mouth.
No, exactly.
They can be funny when they're not stacked right on top of each other, and when they are actually delivered with some sort of and some sort of just like thought around each one, right? Like, you can't just go up there and be like, Jake can cross the road because he wanted to.
Yeah.
You can't just go up there and just lay out the punchline after punchline and expect it to be like, she was laying out like here's some facts.
Yeah.
Here's something that's going to make I'm going to change your mind, and you're not going to change anyone's mind that's on the other side with that kind of talk.
And he will be in jail by 2022, and he will be raped. That's what she said. And I went, raped? Holy shit, that escalated. Because she went from being like, he's got a small dick to he's going to jail in 2020.
It's like, wait a minute, she's writing Donald Trump fanfic.
I looked at you and it's January 6th, 2023 right now. And I went, wrong. Yeah. But where is the literal Nazi? Oh, it was the dude with all the Jew signs. Like, he had a bunch of he had no top teeth. He was old as shit. He had some weird accent. I think he was from he said he was from the Siberian North American portion.
He said he spent time in Siberian North America.
I don't even know what that is other than Alaska, right?
Right. Yeah. He's just being.
But he had a weird accent, one I couldn't place. Sounded a little German, maybe Austrian. I don't know. Maybe he came from.
So you think he was
in Argentina? Maybe he was hiding this whole time.
It's possible he was pretty old, or he was the child of someone that was hiding in Argentina that indoctrinated him.
It's possible there's somebody still alive. There's a couple of them. But he had big signs up that were just like, I couldn't make out exactly what they said, but they're just every once in a while you catch the word Jews and you're like, oh shit, this guy. And he started he was ranting about foreskin.
Yeah, he was only like, his whole thing that he was screaming about was circumcision and how it shouldn't be a forced thing.
On like 9 different occasions.
On the surface, that's to get you drawn in. But then, you look at that poster in the back and you're like, Oh.
You're a Nazi.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
You don't like Jews, basically is what he's saying. Like, he doesn't like Jews.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wow. Like, I don't know.
It was awkward, scary, terrifying. I don't know quite the word.
Yeah.
And then we had
he had a lot of foreskin material. Like,
so much. Like they interviewed him on like 3-4 clips.
He had
that was all foreskin related.
Dude, he could absolutely get on stage and he'd have like 30 to 45 minutes of material.
I know, no. He'd have a type 5 though, which is hard to have. Okay, so then they have which they had an African American dude and a Make America Great Again.
Oh, he was hanging out with the foreskin guy. He was next to him.
Skin tight, red t-shirt. He was all jacked up too. He's like really
very
muscular.
jacked. Yeah,
and he's wearing sweatpants.
He wasn't builder, but
No.
he was like
He's Billy. What was the guy that did the Tybo?
Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks.
He kind of had that.
He was Billy Blanks jacked.
Yeah.
And
he's doing push-ups, he was smoking at the same time and stuff like that.
Was he actually?
He had a cigarette, in his mouth when he was pushing push-ups.
That. Okay, I missed that part. He was absolutely high as shit, y'all. There's no planet in this entire galaxy that man is not high as shit on something. His eyes were wide as fuck. He was talking 90 miles a minute and he could not parse together a thought. Then he started doing like 500-mile-an-hour push-ups at night, like in the middle of a protest.
He was high on something, and he was high on something that doesn't leave your brain functioning right. Like, it's absolutely, you could tell even if that guy wasn't high, he'd be talking some of that crazy shit.
Oh yeah. And I have my guesses as to what he had taken, but like there is no question in my mind that man was
It's angel dust, Holmes.
Friday callback for anybody not old enough to get that reference.
I was in Debo's pigeon coop sweating.
All right, now we got to watch that maybe when we go to bed. We're going to be up until 2 a.m. Baby, sweet girl, when you're listening to
Please
this,
sleep until 10.
Please sleep till 9. I was going to say 9. Not big asks, you know. All right, then there's this unmasked white Antifa guy. So they hit a bunch of guys that were like, legalize it, right after Billy Blanks is like, you know, twin. He's high as shit. It is so obvious. They never really actually like make that point, but it is so obvious. And the way they don't have to, because the way they illustrate it is they go to like 3 Antifa guys right after that going, legalize it, and they're all masked, but then they go to the one guy that's like not masked and his eyes are as big as fucking saucers.
Yeah.
He's terrified looking, but like super tuned into you too. And he's the one guy they've talked to that's unmasked, and he's just like, do shroom. I think he's the one.
He said they've legalized marijuana.
He wanted marijuana.
They're gonna legalize shrooms. The floodgates are open, man. Like,
how do you have this memorized? I took extensive notes, and you know this better than me.
Just something about crazy people just stick in my brain.
But I put unmasked white Antifa guy, also high as hell.
Well, it was funny because they actually talked to a few people before you got to the drug people.
Yeah.
Like, and they were like, yeah, we just want change in the White House, and we want to get this guy out of here. They did like a couple of them, and then they talked to that one guy that was like, and I think they legalized weed, so that's great. And it's just kind of like a what? It's like,
I thought it was Billy Blanks and 1 legalized weed, 2 they're about to legalize weed, 3 mushrooms will open your mind.
They kind of pinged around just before, just to kind of give a little juke.
Just not hating on mushrooms or weed. Like, do you? I think all drugs should be legalized and everybody should sort their own shit out. But it was just a very funny juxtaposition between the crazies, again, with the bell curve that we've discussed.
Well, the first weed guy was the guy that ended up saying,
I'm trying to get to Portland.
Well, he said, I'm trying to get to Portland because he was all about...
He's a communist.
Well, yeah, he was all about a communist, and he was talking about how, like, these houses are going to be burned down, and they'll end up being like a storage plant or something like that. And like he had some crazy out there stuff.
He was wild as shit, yeah.
But then they talked to the long-haired person that was that had the mask on that was talking about weed.
And he wanted to open a commune in Colorado with his buddies.
Well,
are we talking about the same people?
No, that's a different guy. I'm talking about the guy that ended up saying something we both laughed at right afterwards. What did he say? I feel like I could get a little disorderly.
I think you're further in the movie. Yeah, you're further in the movie than that. So it's not there. It's not here yet.
Okay.
So right at this point, we've got the blonde Dolly Parton wannabe teacher.
Oh, the rapping teacher
who taught in the hood, y'all.
I taught in the hood, y'all.
She is very connected with the black community. She loves the African American community.
She calls herself an inverted Oreo.
An inverted Oreo she is. And then she began rapping. Not as bad as I expected her to, I will admit. Still not good. But
she's talking about how like the media.
I couldn't pay attention to what the actual rap said. I couldn't even do it.
It's just so you're too busy trying to. Your brain can't process.
My brain broke. Yeah,
your brain's just like, what is happening right now? And immediately, just like you would think, immediately into the media's got an agenda to. This is why we need to watch Alex Jones. Like, and you're kind of like,
ooh, yeah,
okay.
And yeah, so yeah, she started rapping. She noted that everybody that was Antifa was like a bad faith actor because they had no other way to make money.
And then her
boyfriend chimed in and said the same
George
thing.
Soros is paying them to be here $20 an hour.
I was like, fuck, George.
How do you know all this?
Yeah, exactly. Did you see an ad in the paper? They started touting that there was a socialist agenda. And I made a quick note that, however, they admit that there's no other way for these people to make money. So there's probably somewhere in the system that's broken that they haven't quite addressed yet. And then, yes, we jump into Alex Jones. She says the way we are introduced to Alex Jones is she, the rapping school teacher from the hood who looks like Dolly Parton's niece, says Alex Jones knows the truth. And
Alex Jones knows the truth, and more people need to watch reputable small media like that. You're like, what?
Then we get a flash of Rudy Giuliani's dumb, drunk, absent-minded ass, exact quote from my notes. And the erotic horror actor. Did you catch that guy?
Yeah. He said the same lines a couple times too.
Yeah.
It's a steaming pile of pig drippings or whatever he said.
He said he accused somebody of like personal attacks and incoherent argument. No, somebody accused him of personal attacks and incoherent arguments pretty quickly because that was all he had. And then we cut to like an actual face-to-face interview with him.
Yeah.
Like somebody accused him in the crowd at a thing with it.
Yeah. Didn't he compare himself to something?
Oh, I can't remember.
I think it should be right in your note. I think you wrote it down.
No.
In the face-to-face? No?
Not this early, at least.
Oh, he said it now, and I now. Oh, he said you could be killed. You could be killed for wearing a MAGA hat, and the police would do nothing about it.
Oh, I missed that.
And it was at that point that I realized what it must have felt like to be a Jew in January 30th of 1933.
Do you know I've heard so many of these MAGA idiots compare themselves to what it should have felt like to be a Jew in the Holocaust that I can't even hear it anymore. Like I tune it out. I'm just like, I can't entertain this dumbass fucking line of reasoning. Like I can't comment on it anymore than I have. Like obviously I can because I'm doing it right now, but it's just that's probably why I didn't write it down, because subconsciously I was like, not this shit again. Oh my Christ. Like, by the way, our daughter started saying, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, please keep with that line.
Yeah. There's always a red flag that goes up whenever someone talks of like references the plight of being a Jewish person in the Holocaust, especially when they can give you an exact date. Yeah. January 30th of 1933. It's like, oh, you're well versed in your hate, aren't you? Like,
yeah. Like I took
nothing's a bigger red flag, man.
I took semesters and semesters on World War II, the Holocaust. Like, it's just I really immersed myself in it in college.
Right.
Still can't tell you anything besides World War II was from 1940 to 1945.
Right.
Like, and I mean, I could have probably back then, don't get me wrong, but like I learned it. I learned from the horror. I didn't log all the dates anymore. Like there's a life to live, and it's the same way I like get big red flags when people start screaming the word pedo over and over and over again when nobody mentioned it. I'm just like, why are you bringing up so much Nazi shit when nobody was talking about it? Like, out of the fucking blue like that, huh? You know all the facts behind it. You know all the stats. Wonder what's going on in your head on a daily basis, because I'm just worried about paying bills and feeding my dogs and my kid. Like, it's just always that you got too much time on your hands, don't you?
Right.
Like, anyway. Then we hit the I'm feeling a little militant, not gonna lie, guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I feel like I could get a little militant.
It's like, is this person?
It was so casually said.
Like they cut to this like person holding up like one of those big road banners with a couple people. And then and other people have been talking about blood in the streets is coming, like civil war, blah 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 blah. And then they cut to this like slightly effeminate, just real chill person, like shoulder length hair, just like, I'm feeling a little militant.
Like, yeah, I see. I feel like I could get a little.
I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like I could get a little militant tonight. He said it like, I feel like I could get a little militant tonight. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
You know what? If my dance card ain't full later, let's fit it in.
And I made a point, and then you made a point. I was like, that person would get scared if a firecracker went off beside you. You're like, I don't know. They might just be that much of a psycho. They're going to be curb stomping someone later. I was like, yeah, he kind of does put off that vibe of like, I'm going to tickle you for a little bit too long before you start to panic.
I made the note. It was like, I love how me and you take a different, like an absolutely opposite take on so many things sometimes because you were like, that person's going to be like climbing the chair to get away from a mouse. And I'm like, I got a feeling. There's an I snorted an unlocked savage in there.
You're like, I feel like that person's how hard do I got to pull on this mouse's arm before it comes off?
Oh shit, that visual hurt me. All right, so next after that person, we hit the Christian fascist who was totes proud as fuck about that.
Yeah.
Just neat, like just such.
What do you call it? Fascio Christian is what he called it. And he's like,
yeah.
And Andrew Callaghan goes, you mean Christian fascist? He goes, yeah.
Oh my God.
I love how he's just like,
just a terrifying term all the way around.
He's like, you ever feel like you go too deep into the hole, man?
Yeah. And he was like, I'm just, I'm never going to get out of this hole. And
anything I dig into is just getting me closer to my grave.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Ugh.
It was like such a quick, stupid, fake deep comment that you were like, there's no thought that got put into that. Like, this is a person that always waits on his turn to talk because he's a child. Yeah. You could tell he was a child.
Well, and
I don't mean a literal child. I mean a man child. I mean like a 24-year-old that's never seen the world, thinks he knows everything child.
You could also see.
Hey, by the way, I feel seen when I say that out loud anyway. But,
you could see too where if this person, this Christian fascist guy had met a different group of friends, he would be reciting emo poetry and holding a skull.
He'd have My Chemical Romance plastered all over every fucking wall of his teeny bopper bedroom.
Yeah, it was a weird alt-right emo guy. It was odd.
Somebody that never got laid is a definite incel now. And so instead of being an incel, he's going to be like, but I'm a Christian, so I'm waiting for marriage because women should be pure. Anyway, we could go down a rabbit hole ourselves on this one. Let's stop.
And here's the thing. Guys like that could probably get laid
easily
if they would get their head out of their ass.
Easily.
Come on, man.
There's a bunch of fucking dipshits that Joker fucking dude was getting laid left and right. I believe him. He claimed that in the beginning of the movie, and I fucking 1000% believe him.
100%.
I saw that ring girl. She'd have fucked him.
Yeah.
And she was cute. Like, no self-esteem whatsoever, but cute. Like,
I mean, clout gets you things.
We'll get there. We're getting there, guys. Don't worry about it. Okay, so then we introduce ourselves to 7-8-year-old little boy named Roman, this filmmaker's nephew, and I'm assuming his brother-in-law, one or the other, warns him, please don't get Roman involved in the bullshit that you're trying to stir up. And I heard the voicemail and went, this is a setup. But thankfully, they just like did a cute little talking head with a 7-year-old who had his shit together, or good parents, or both. I don't know. Like, he had non-complicated answers for complicated subjects that
they weren't like brainwashy.
They weren't brainwashy. They were direct definitions almost of they didn't even feel slanted. Like it was refreshing a little bit. I was like, oh, thank God for the youth of America. There's a couple of them that'll be all right. Maybe I won't brainwash my own damn child. It'll be great. But we started talking about that a little bit, and I don't know where that note is on that, so I'll move on to the next one. But we started moving into crowds of people that were losing, like fake excited yelling that Biden won the presidency. You know, like the "we where it's like not the actual moment of elation. It's like I got good news that I kind of figured was coming kind of thing. And I said no one. They were
trying to be crazy.
They were putting on for the cameras. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that whole like when you watch a TikTok video and you can tell someone's acting. It all felt like that. So it's like people who don't know how to actually be excited and yell about something.
Yeah, I put no one was that excited that Biden won. They might have been relieved. Possibly, maybe.
Yeah, they might have been relieved. Yeah, it's
but not that kind of excitement, like filling the streets of New York, screaming your heads off, like we won. No.
Yeah, that was more of a let me get out and be seen, being excited about stuff, and it's just kind of like, But you got to remember too, this is also that I thought about this. This is also a time period where we're coming out of lockdowns and stuff like that. We're coming out of like people saying, so I think people are still like trying to refigure out how to act around people.
I'm so bad at it.
Because if you remember, once they started,
we felt so awkward.
Well, once they started like sporting events back, how many fights were going on in the stands, and like people just didn't understand how to be drunk around other people, and
I don't remember that explicitly, but it might have been because I just wasn't associating with sporting events, because there were so many political fights in the stands, because that whole Let's Go Brandon shit started at fucking ball games and stuff.
Oh, it started at NASCAR.
At NASCAR, but like it got popular at that baseball game.
Yeah.
Like,
but like, I don't know. I think part of it too is just awkwardness of people. My point is just awkwardness of people being out for the first time in forever.
I think that's 100% a huge factor in it, and I think also like the fuel of the fire had been stoked, sending them out into public for the first time too.
That was a weird time.
Yeah.
That was what was the first thing we went out and did after?
We went and saw Batman.
We went and saw Batman. I think the very first thing we went to, I'm not going to name the brewery, but we went to a brewery and you couldn't drink.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That was like one of the first things we did. After emerging from the from our little sequestering at home.
But like we were even talking about it with the filmmaker. I don't know. I think I lost my point actually. Never mind.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it was a weird time.
Like, just that. So yeah, that was an awkward moment though, just to see all those people celebrating.
I remember what he said. He was bringing up. He was like, we've gotten so far away from it now. Like just like 2 years later, that it's hard to remember where the tension of civil war was like in the air.
Oh yeah, in the intro, he's like there was.
I think he made that point even a little
civil war
later.
And a pandemic, and he goes, "Remember that?"
Yeah,
like, that was at the very beginning.
But he said it at the beginning. But I think he revisited that in the middle, where he's like, "It's really hard for us to remember this, like being so distant from it now." But like, you could feel it in the air. Like it seemed very plausible. We were headed towards another civil war for a half a second there, maybe longer.
Well, and I mean, you can blame that on the sheer amount of data.
Division that was sowed,
and just the amount of going through Reddit and just just information that flies at your face.
It's hard to decipher it all. All right, so my his next interview, and one of my favorite people in this entire documentary, was the man that made bisexual allegations against Trump, and then closed his picture sharing and dick sucking stories about the former president with the phrase "God bless America."
God bless America.
I don't know that any of them are credible by any means, but it was a hilarious anecdote for me. God bless America.
And that's kind of when they shifted. They talked to another guy who ended up directing us to Hunter Biden, right? Like,
yeah, we got there. They did like this whole suck my dick crew with like a bunch of college students, where it made no sense to me. Like it was like 15 people screaming "suck my dick" into the thing. Somebody said, "We're smoking Trump tonight." Some dumb broad said, "Senora Vice President." That's all I have to say. And then they panned to the guy behind her, rolling his eyes as hard as they'll roll. And I agreed with him.
Well, it went from people saying things and everybody around him cheering, and she said that, and everyone was just kind of like,
everybody went flat.
Now that was probably a little bit of editing magic, but it was perfect.
I think it was absolutely editing magic, but it happened. It
was perfect, but I think that's another example of people not remembering how to be out in mass. And it was so weird.
Everybody was living online, so they were acting in real life like they were online being watched as the only main character in the fucking story.
Yeah.
It was weird.
They were acting like they were streaming or they were live YouTubing or something like that.
Then you got the one dude that says everybody go back to brunch because he's just a nihilist about it all. We loved him.
Everybody go back to brunch. It's business as usual.
Nobody's
now, right?
gonna fix the system. Nobody gives a shit. Thank God we're not all gonna be stressed out every single day. Go back to brunch.
Oh, that makes me laugh every time. Everybody can go back to brunch.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Then you got the guy wearing the full-on pig head mask, and he called for a revolution.
Yeah.
He said it's revolution time, and
He's like, it's just more of the same. They're not going to help us.
yeah, I thought that was the brunch guy, but hell, they kind of had the same message. One was sit down and go to brunch. One was start a revolution. Same message though.
Right.
Sorry, I dropped my notes. Let's see. Then we have the old man who is the resounding conscience of the entire movie, who just made solid vague points throughout that this is just the beginning. There is no end. The rich will take from the poor.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
And the poor get poorer.
Yeah, that to me is I honestly think that at that point in the documentary is where that becomes Andrew Callaghan's anchor point.
I think so. Yeah, well, I mean, it is his anchor point. It's how he anchors the movie at the end.
It is how he anchored, but you can see it's like up to that point, you're just talking to crazy people, and because that's what all his content's been up to that point. It's like, let me find the craziest people saying crazy stuff, and I'll edit it all together.
Well, I mean, he had to kind of come to he had to bring the movie with a stage to set the story for.
Sure, yeah.
Like, how'd he get here? Why the fuck do we care that you're the one talking about this? You know,
Yeah.
Because I've talked to thousands of dumbasses across this great land who do care, don't care, sometimes do care, don't care, about this problem. And
that to me is super brilliant in just from a creator standpoint. It's hard to find that moment to be like, this becomes everything.
Your thesis.
Yeah, this becomes the thesis of what I'm doing. Because everything up to that point, he's always had great messages with his stuff, but it's all been really short form stuff. But to have that one thing that you come across and be like, I wonder if he just did all the interviews he could, and then when he's reviewing everything, he's like, all right, I'll start here and I'll build back and I'll build forward. Kind of like, this is the thing, I'll build up to this, and then I'll build on this. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's probably the most likely approach, because I'm sure when you see a person like the man that said that, because he's elderly old man that's obviously seen some shit in the midst of all these idiot kids, and
clearly from another country,
country, another era, not making insane, wild, incoherent points. He's got succinct, vague, don't get me wrong, vague points, but they're not incorrect either.
They can be as existential or as shallow as you want them to be.
Exactly. So, and I think I'm sure somebody like Andrew looked at that man and was giving him the benefit of the doubt of his experience and wisdom, and read into it.
Yeah, and I think about
hopefully wisdom. God, if he shows up with kiddie porn on his computer, please erase this podcast.
If I wanted to, honestly, if I had a chance to talk with Andrew Callaghan, the thing I would want to ask him is, so clearly this becomes the anchor of your documentary. Does he know in that, because he's sipping a beer while the guy's talking, I was like, does he know in that moment, when he's interviewing that guy, that's the thing, or has he been interviewing people all day, so it's all just kind of a blur and he finds that later?
I think that'd be a great question.
It'd be a really cool question.
If that dumb broad from NPR had lightened up a bit, maybe she would have thought of something like that. Is that sexist? Am I allowed to say broad? I mean, I'm a lady. I can say broad, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of white guys in this movie who said a bunch of words they weren't supposed to. So who knows what I'm allowed to say anymore. Let's see. We get to the 1 million MAGA march. And the
first one, right? The first 1 million MAGA march.
I think there was only one.
There was two.
Oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, first one. Filmmaker noted, I don't think 1 million people made it the second one. It might have been called that, but whatever. Filmmaker notes optimism in the air. Alex Jones, dumb word salad comes out. Clones, communists, pedo, Biden, animal, human, spider goats. And then he notes that his dad.
That's when he's sitting down with him, right?
No. I think it was a mix between his speech
he was
that.
Jumping back and forth. Okay.
Yeah. But in 35 seconds, he hit all those points. maybe less. Then he said his dad was recruited by some of these like pedo globalist organizations and he turned him down.
Yeah.
So my dad, they wanted my dad, but so I've got a tie to this, a personal tie. It's my dad.
I know a guy.
I know a guy, but not only is it I know a guy, it's nepotism, like the most direct form of it.
My dad knew a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I love Alex Jones.
A friend of mine told me
Not
about this
sarcastic
guy.
at all.
I hate that stuff so much. It's kind of like, he's like, I was supposed to be on a plane on September 9th.
Shit. Don't get me wrong. If
I was flying 2 days later.
If I was supposed to be on a flight on September 9th and then September 11th played out the way it did and obviously nothing would have happened to me, I'd still probably say the same shit because I'm that goofy ass, like just looking for something not awkward to say in a conversation type of person, and then I'll come up with something and it's like
the most awkward thing
the most awkward, unrelevant thing I could possibly say, and I just die of embarrassment right there on the spot. It's fun.
I think
you guys should all join me. It's great.
And I think that's something that would be good to, we talked about like how to prepare the daughter not to be dancing in a ring, right?
Yeah.
I think that's also something that's like, I think it's only natural for people to try to find a way to relate. And I think that some people just don't know how to relate.
I try to relate to so many people, and like in the moment I'm trying to relate to them because my everything takes me across the spectrum of Trump supporters, like lefties, all like cultures and minorities. Like it's just, I am a basic white bitch. Like there is no getting around it. That is like, I should have a pair of Uggs and drink Starbucks every day. It's like literally the only thing I'm lacking. And so I try to relate.
You're trying to anchor your credibility.
Well, not even that. I just try to like come up with a common ground to have like some dumb, silly conversations that are not about the weather with people. And I always say the wrong thing. Yeah. Always. It's like impossible for me to say the right thing.
It's small talk people, man. Sometimes it's just better to leave it at the small talk.
Like, and that's the thing is like, if I can get in a good bartender groove about it, I can small talk all day long.
Sure. It's also easier to small talk when you're the bartender and you got
control of the situation. Yep. Like I'm so bad at it now. Like I have to really prep myself to go in and like schmooze. Like I have to like give myself a pep talk that's just like, you're about to go make rent with this conversation. Schmooze your way into it. And that doesn't mean like my rent's actually literally like riding on it, but like that's the mindset I have to get into. Like that's how my psychology has been trained. That's the only way I'm capable of holding a coherent, silly, lighthearted conversation with somebody without sticking my foot right in my fucking mouth.
Well, like, and there's two, I think about,
I have to do it with family sometimes too. Like it's weird.
I think that thinking about the bartending thing too, it's kind of, not only are you in that position of quote unquote power in the relationship of the bartender and patron, right? You're also talking about I would imagine most of the time you're not really having to come up with the talking points. You just kind of walk up because you're having to move around the whole time because you're in a moderately busy to super busy bar, right?
You can pop out anytime you want.
You could pop out at any time. Yeah. So if things get awkward, be like, oh, there's a person, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
there were so many times somebody was like literally telling me their life story in a really serious note. It was none of my business. It was really inappropriate, in fact. And I'd just be like, hold that thought. Like, it's like if you had a real personal relationship with somebody, it'd be like an unforgivable interruption offense. Sure. And you get forgiven for it every time as a bartender. But
and I'm sure the amount of times you walked up to like people that were regulars or something, they're like, they'll be talking to each other like, oh my God, all right, what's your opinion on blah 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 blah? Like they'll be having like, it's like the conversation is naturally coming at you anyway, which helps so much more than when you have to actually go and hold your own, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like in the business world, like if conversations are especially as a woman, there'll be sports conversations happening around me all the time. And while I was a bartender, sports are on all the time. Like you can't help but absorb and figure out what's going on. And I don't pay attention to that on my own a whole lot. Like, I would like to think...
Did he kick a home run?
Yeah. I mean, I know basic rules. Thank you. Don't make me that dumb. But like, and not even dumb. Just like it's it's not what I would prefer to spend my brain power on most of the time. Like, I have my teams I favorite and I like enjoy following them from time to time, but I'm not
distance,
I'm not a diehard fan. Like, it's not something that's ever going to ruin my day. It's not something that's ever going to make my year. Like, I had a brand new baby when we won a national championship and I barely noticed. You
went to bed.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would have noticed had we not had a baby.
I remember I watched the national championship by myself. I just pulled it up on a computer screen. I was just watching it, like just chilling because you were tired.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was a long Christmas. We had a under 1-year-old.
But no, it makes sense, and I think that
and it's not that I don't like sports. Like, I really enjoy sports if I'm in the mindset to sit down and watch them. It's just not my end all be all thing. But it is for so many people, and I don't pay enough attention to it anymore to be like able to participate in those conversations.
Well, when you were a bartender, it was by proxy. It was always there, right?
God,
people were there to watch the game.
I knew stats. I knew legacies. I knew drafts. I knew all kinds of shit. Like, I knew bad plays. I knew the sports announcers on Sports Center. I knew who was an idiot and who wasn't, who not to listen to, whose picks not to pick. Like, I mean, it rubbed off a lot, and I could bullshit my way through a conversation. I didn't care, but I could pull that shit just from like osmosis.
Right.
And now I can't do that. So it's really hard when like somebody who's high up in my company comes to talk to my male counterpart who's on my level about all the sports around us, and they're having a 45-minute discussion.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get in there and talk about that. Well, if I go to talk to anybody about in that same position about my actual job and job performance, it's a 2-minute conversation. Whereas they'll sit there and talk football for 27 minutes. Like,
you can only roll with it and be like, yeah, that's crazy for so long.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard position. Like, I'm sitting here and I don't want to be inauthentic. Like, anybody that listens to this podcast and has ever heard me on it before can probably understand that all I want in life is to be an open book and not have to censor myself and be able to just put exactly what I think and feel out there on full display and let it sit. But that's not real in a face-to-face social interaction world.
I don't know. I think I feel like I used to be like that. Not that I'm ever dishonest with like.
I don't mean being dishonest. No. I just mean guarded.
Yeah, no, not that not that I go out of my way to really stop me from talking about certain things, but like, I feel like I've gotten, as I get older, I get a little more enjoyment out of figuring out how to hold back on certain things, like what things to hold back on. Like,
I know what you're talking about, and I
don't know if I'm saying that right, but yeah.
Well, the first quarter of my life, I had no idea how to hold back, and I just if I disagreed, I went full force into it and probably burned like tons of bridges.
When to fold them, when to hold them.
Yeah. And now, I'm going to assume I'm in the second quarter of my life, maybe nearing the third, and I know what you're talking about. Like, sometimes I give myself like an internal, like, little mental pat on the back when somebody says something really fucking stupid and I don't take the bait.
Yeah.
Like, it feels good to not take the bait and then to look around the room for a response and nobody gives it to them, and you can just sit back and like melt into the couch and like kind of give yourself that little half like sinister grin. Like,
I got that. You Zach Morris the camera. You're like, oh, I got that one.
Got that motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. I got that guy.
All he wanted was attention and nobody gave it to him. Love it.
Well, I like that, and I also like finding creative ways to.
We're getting really off topic.
Well, we can get right back on in a second, but to slyly let information go in a way that some might get it, and some might. Other people will just think it's completely innocuous.
I think I like that too. I know I've seen you do that. It's a wonderful approach. There's also the don't give a fuck approach, which I sometimes still jump into, as I did today when somebody told me they thought we were all going to be like dying from vaccines in a few years in a very serious manner. Out of fucking nowhere, and I just was like, I don't think we are. Yeah. I think we're gonna be fine.
Yeah. She basically went, I can't suffer this.
I was like, I dare you to come up with anything to support that argument right now in this space in front of me, because we're gonna have a long day after that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Anyway, sorry, we can get back to this.
No, don't apologize. This is super fun. My only note after Alex Jones's wonderful appearance, as always, is after he hit the pedo globalist point that he likes to make all the time. I said, someone tell me why the only pedos the right care about are, I told you I wasn't going to be able to read my own handwriting, outside of the church. It's not really part of the movie, but it's always something I'm curious to try to understand. So Alex Jones quotes to the filmmaker that the, quote, proletariat, he calls the masses, quote, likes dumbed down stuff, so I talk on their level. And I turned to you in that very moment and said, he said the quiet part out loud.
He said the quiet part out loud.
He thinks everybody that listens to him is a fucking moron. It's all a grift. It is 1,000% a fucking grift and has been from day one. Well, his accent didn't used to sound like that. All he does is sell fucking brain pills and dick pills.
Well, and here's the thing: you can feel how you want to feel about Alex Jones, but he absolutely knows what he's doing.
1,000%.
He's very. He may not say the right shit, but he's very smart in saying what he says. And sadly,
I'm so torn on that, because it's hard to call Alex Jones pill-riddled fucking brains that's just full of holes from whiskey smart. It is hard to do that, but he's obviously outsmarted all of the fucking media.
He's duped the fuck out of a lot of people.
The millions of people. So it's how can you not call this man intelligent? But he is literally just a a walking Jameson chugging ball of flesh that screams at grieving people all the time. He's calling for the second American Revolution. I question, how the fuck is he not in jail? He immediately distances himself from his calls for sedition. It's just and then he starts backpedaling by calling his entire channel art. Do you remember him making the artist comparison?
He's like, I'm absolutely an actor, and I completely believe him.
Yeah,
I completely believe him. He absolutely is an actor.
1,000%. Again, his accent is a put on. It never used to be that way. But at what point, if you never drop the facade, are you an actor instead of a fucking snake oil salesman?
Dude, that is honestly, that is pundit news right there.
Yeah,
all those guys, they're all just doing the same shit Alex Jones is doing. They're all doing the same shit. They're
Tucker Carlson trying to act like he has anything in common with anyone that watches him is a fucking joke. He is the Swanson heir. Swanson frozen food heir.
But you're talking Hannity. You're talking about
Hannity.
Anybody on many of the pundits that are on the left side are the same.
Yeah, Madoff was the next thing to my brain.
Dude, they are literally here's where I get my paycheck, and then I go home and I do whatever the fuck I want to do.
We'll probably get to this in a little bit, but we brought up a video after this, and it was the guy that's in the was in the Young Turks, and he made a offhanded comment that he lives in a $3 million mansion in his video, and
but he was also
I get it. But my point is the second your house reaches 7 figures, you're not like the rest of anybody.
Yeah,
you're probably not like the rest of anybody the second your house reaches fucking 200-300 grand.
and I'm sure on some level that was embellished too. He's like I'm gonna make it sound as ridiculous as possible.
Maybe, but it's everybody preaching to any of us. Remember that they are rich and we are not.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're rich, remember they're still trying to get some sample of your money. You hire financial planners to protect all your assets and wealth, and then you listen to these fucking salesmen. They're just going to steal it right out from under you by scaring the shit out of you about some shit that's not a real threat.
If they know your name, if people know who you are, like they're making money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thing. Like, name recognition is everything. Clout is everything. If you can say you can say this one person's name. You can say Alex Jones to someone in Georgia, and then say Alex Jones to someone in Alaska, and they both know who you are. They don't have. You're a household name.
I mean, and that point gets made at the very end of the film by none other than Joker. Yeah, like it's
Joker gang.
Joker gang. Let's see. I
think I'm on the Joker gang. Out of the two, I like Joker the best.
Yeah. Also, we talked about the Jameson chugging in the weight room.
Oh yeah.
1,000%. 1,000,000,000%. I would have filmed every second of that segment.
Yeah.
Like, if Alex Jones, whom I despise, like as one of the worst things to happen to modern humanity, asked me to chug a bottle of Jameson with him and start bench pressing weights, I'd have been like, yes, sir. Where do I sign up? Make sure the camera's running and got full batteries, please.
Yeah, there's just some things you have to, even if you're not talking about, lifting weights and stuff, like when you get a moment to pick someone's brain like that and to be in the room with someone and just try to understand like where they're coming from, or try to help yourself understand where they're coming from, right? Because there's some people where you're kind of like, well, I would never put myself on the level of, even if it was for entertainment, of saying that a school shooting was hoaxed, right? Like, I would never put myself on that level, but I would love to figure out why that person is like that. Not to give them any credit, and I don't feel like it's giving them any kind of legitimacy. It's just kind of like, this is a crazy person, and let me showcase why this is a crazy person.
Yeah. Like, I don't think if I were in his position in any form of journalist, I don't think I'd ever approach Alex Jones about shit to do with Sandy Hook. Like,
no.
There's a huge lawsuit. He lost the fuck out of it. Like, there's nothing really to be gained journalistically on giving him more to say about that dumb shit.
Well, what's great,
not that the tragedy was dumb, but like his opinion on it is dumb.
Yeah, what's great, and we can watch this some other time. So all that stuff was filmed before the Sandy Hook trials, right?
Yeah.
Andrew Callaghan, after the Sandy Hook trial, like in the middle of all that, actually got to go and interview Alex Jones again about that.
Oh.
So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't think it's.
I'm sure he's got a take I haven't thought of, but as a mom that's terrified of her kid going to preschool, because of shit like Sandy Hook,
it's too personal.
It's too personal for me. Like, I'd never touch that with a 10-foot pole. However, bunch of people trying to break into the Capitol on some megalomaniac's dumb fucking words, and we get to sit around and binge drink.
In the internet's words, yeah.
In the internet's words. Like, we get to sit around and binge drink while I try to pick your brain apart while you're not realizing what I'm doing.
And bench pressing, yeah.
I mean, bench press. I'll let him bench press, but whatever. I mean, we'll probably get to it when we talk a little bit about it, but like, we watched that NPR interview with the filmmaker later on, and she was like, why'd you do that? And he's like, because a crazy person asked me to, like, he all but said, because a crazy person asked me to drink a bottle of Jameson with him and lift weights while a camera was rolling. Like, what the hell why do you think I fucking did it, dummy? Like,
yep.
All I do is interview crazy people. Like, don't you get the shtick? Like,
ridiculous.
Yeah. So, all right. Next, they start talking about Hunter Biden, which I did not know about Hunter Biden.
Oh, that he was like, he videoed himself.
I mean, I knew he was a fuck up. I knew he had a drug habit, and I knew he was a fuck up. I didn't know there were like literal videos several times over, even after it being a problem and known.
He was the more extreme version of Bill Clinton's brother. Remember when Bill Clinton's brother was like the fuck up?
Yeah. Fucking other Clinton. Oh, I forgot about that.
I forgot what his name was.
He had DUIs. That was his thing, right?
Yeah. He's a little bit of a booze hound.
So is Clinton. But
this booze hound can't put his booze down.
Well, I shouldn't even say that. So is Clinton. Clinton's many other things, including, and never mind. We'll get into some conspiracy theories of my own. Lolita Express. Anyway, let's see. Trump. Okay, so everybody was hanging on everything Hunter Biden did, which, one, yeah, that's a little fucked up. But two, again, I think all drugs should be legal. Obviously, Hunter Biden's got some demons. Not the worst thing a politician's ever done, in my opinion. And this is not a whataboutism, but it is a whataboutism.
Yeah.
Trump's ex-wife definitely filed assault and battery charges and rape charges in her divorce filings. And then just recently found dead mysteriously at the bottom of stairwell. So
she's also pretty old.
She was pretty old. Still,
I'm not going to speculate.
I'll speculate. Fuck it.
But yeah. So the Biden thing. So
I'm just like people grab bones and shake them. Like
they do, and that's what that's kind of what,
nothing to do with anybody's job performance.
And that's kind of what the Hunter Biden thing was kind of intro to. He's like let's step into another realm of crazy when it comes to some of these folks and how they're informed, and it came down to. All right, so there's the laptops that apparently have some sort of improper stuff that now the theory is the Chinese got a hold of the laptops, and so then they now have control, blackmail control over Biden
and want to put him in place. Exactly what happened 4 years before with the Russians and someone else's videotapes with PP games on them.
I mean, it's just
I don't know.
Nothing ever came out. So
anyway, so we hop to the Proud Boys and all their dumb fucking friends, which include Gavin McInnes, which I didn't realize was a co-founder of Vice. That I think I knew that. I think I might have forgot it. I also don't know if I even realized it. So fuck that dummy. Jason Kessler, double fuck you is my note on him. That Enrique's bullshit. Recently prison released new leader of the Proud Boys, the drinking club with a political problem.
A patriot problem.
Whatever the fuck.
And he even says like he hadn't drank in like 12 years.
Fucking shit.
I actually...
He had a bottle of Glenlivet sitting on his desk. I
absolutely would believe that someone who's just trying to make money and run an organization would absolutely just put that image out there. And,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's an in shape dude. Like, he probably doesn't party at all. He's probably just kind of like, all right, where's the next place I can make money?
Oh, and yeah, based on his later statements, you absolutely know that's part of it. Yeah. But I also don't buy for a fucking second that he hadn't had a drink in 12 years. I don't think he's a drunk. I don't think he's a teetotaler either. So
maybe not. I don't know. There's some crazy sober people out there too.
There are, and one of them was the president for 4 fucking years, in fact.
Yep.
Let's see. The term soy boy got used in a confrontation with all those fuckers on the side of a street in another cut to interview that they did. They started talking about talking about the guy that got laid out in that viral video by the Proud Boy.
Yeah.
And they called him a soy boy, and then dumb Enrique, whatever his fuck his name is, made sure to correct his loudmouth fucking fast talking buddies who were about to spill the beans that it wasn't self-defense, to make sure they mentioned it was self-defense. So he corrected everybody that they stay on their talking points so nobody went to jail like they're supposed to.
Enrique Tarrio.
Yeah, thank you, Tarrio.
So essentially at this point in the documentary, we've moved into talking to the Proud Boys and getting their side of who they are, right? And essentially what it kind of breaks down to is like they are clearly very alt-right, very veiled racism.
They're, spoiler alert, they're boring as fuck.
They're very boring, and essentially they're t-shirt salesmen. Yeah. I mean, is what it comes. The leadership is just basically trying to sell merch.
Yeah.
Same way Alex Jones is trying to sell merch.
100,000%.
And he even admits that he's a and I might have another site somewhere that sells Biden merch.
Yeah. Like
he knows where his money comes from.
I've got that. Yeah. So let's see. Why? Okay. So after, Enrique corrects his entire crew, that guy, self-defense, some awesome guy comes up, starts telling them all go fuck themselves. They almost get into an altercation, and the Proud Boys have to calm down one of their more excitable members who's about to really amp shit up with somebody who's ready to go, because he sees a group of racists.
But even if the cameras weren't there, they would have acted the same way. It's like, there's my point. Fucking way, man.
They said the media wants to paint us as these racists, blah 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 blah. And if we were any of that guy would have been done for. And you could see the guy saying these statements, seething, wanting to go punch this dude's face into the ground. He is barely holding it together.
Yep.
And I made the note, why didn't we commit crimes on camera? Because the media paints us in a bad picture.
Well, and here's the thing. He absolutely so he said that, and he literally said the words, "There's the proof for you."
Yeah, he did.
There's the proof, camera or not. We would have fucked that guy up if they say we're who we are. It's like, no, man.
No,
like,
you wouldn't have. You would not have gone and committed a felony on camera with mics in your fucking face.
Guys
you
like
dumb
being,
shit.
Like, you guys enjoy being out of jail as much as everybody
else. Yeah. No, nobody's a big fan of jail.
But if they knew they could get away with it.
Yeah.
And no one would ever know that they attacked that guy, they absolutely would have.
I don't even know that because
I'm not going to say absolutely.
They are 100% wusses.
Well,
that's what I was
less
hard in the paint.
I'm not going to speculate like that. They would absolutely want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would absolutely be talking to that person very differently because there was 3 of them and 1 of that guy.
Exactly. And he's still as big as fuck. He would have fucked at least 2 of them up. But then it, like, getting back to your point where the dude was like, and I may have some Biden websites where I have Biden merch. So watch where you buy your political shit from. Like, not that I have any political merchandise, but if you're somebody that does, man, don't support the people who are trying to pitch you against everybody else.
If I ever become a person who buys a politician's name on a shirt, like, look, it's one thing bands, it's another thing like comedians, it's like merch. I'm a merch fiend. I love t-shirts.
You have more t-shirts than anyone I've ever known.
I love brewery shirts. I love band shirts. I love all kinds of stuff like that. But I've never, even before all the craziness that is that is the fanaticism over politicians now, right? I've never in my life had the urge to go out and buy any shirt, even those spoofy meme shirts where it's like Reagan 83. You know, it's like. None of that.
You're not allowed to wear a Reagan shirt around me.
I would never.
Okay. So anyway, this guy, the Enrique guy, he's a career criminal. Like, he's got a rap sheet a mile long. He is now the proud leader of the Proud Boys, which my favorite counter protest of all of the 21st century was when everybody in the gay community came together to take back the hashtag Proud Boys. Yeah. And they posted pictures of them with their husbands and boyfriends and like significant others in various states of PDA and undress, and just hashtagged it all Proud Boys. And it made my heart sing because for about a week there, they were very mad, and it made me happy. All right. So anyway, this motherfucker's a grifter as defined by the dictionary. He's just playing all sides just to make a buck.
Sure.
So,
all of them are.
So we get to the Georgia protests that take place at the CNN Center 2 weeks after the election.
And at the Capitol. He was at 2 different locations. He went to the Capitol and he went to the...
and this is the first time the filmmaker talks about hearing talk of a coup taking place. They talk to a dude that says Jesus wasn't a pacifist, and he mentions, the table turning in the temple, which is what everyone I ever grew up with always referenced when they needed to cite the need for violence for Christian means. Mm-hmm. I grew up in an extremely religious household.
Tell me about the table turning thing real quick.
Jesus went into the temple and merchants were set up tables in the temple selling merchandise in a holy ground. Jesus got pissed. He flipped all the tables.
Okay.
Very short story.
How many people did he assault with weapons?
He did not touch a soul. He flipped tables only.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Jesus actually is famously known for saying, turn the other cheek, if I do recall. But why would you cherry pick that one? But I will say you shouldn't turn the other cheek if you feel like your country's being taken over. Like
some people just don't deserve that other cheek.
Coup type situation. Like, I don't know, something that happened 2 years ago today.
There's no absolutes in anything, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Let's see. The people that he interviews starts asking who's bussing people in. That's a nice dog whistle of a racism right there.
Yeah, who's bussing in the Antifa people? How much are they getting paid by George Soros? The same talking points.
It's so wild to me that like the term bussing became such a dog whistle all of a sudden again. Like, just all the racists just perk right up.
I don't know.
It's like only a tune they can hear.
Then there's just the whole younger generation's got their version of bussin'.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which means awesome, basically.
Ugh. Yeah. Oh
We
God, I
bussin'?
forgot about.
We bussin'?
I forgot about that. I'm so old. And then we hit up a couple socialists to talk about their opinions. They really want workers to own the means of production, but they don't know how to say that or really the concept behind it. So it all comes out garbled bullshit, like baristas should own the coffee machines in the Starbucks restaurants. It's silly.
Like, I think they should, and I'm just kind of like, none of you, and just like the people on the right, the people on the left are just as bad about having these profound points that they cannot fucking explain.
I'm so guilty of that too. Like, I in concept know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
You pin me down on a bunch of shit, and there's a lot I'm not going to be able to articulate properly.
What does that mean?
That's why I don't fucking get in these arguments with people a lot of times.
Explain that. What is a globalist? Like all that shit, man.
I take notes, and I'll speak my mind to you. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm not going to try to hold my own when pinned down, but like I'm not changing anybody's mind. This is just me talking in the ether, bullshitting. Judging a movie. Yeah. Well, we listen to it. It's a nice time capsule of our lives. I like that. Your friends comment sometimes, tell me they think I'm funny when I drink whiskey. I like that too.
I'm just joking.
Anyway, 5G shows up again. Totally forgot about that. You remember 5G? I literally have 5G showed up. Remember that?
5G is, we're basically getting blasted with, what do you say, the equivalent of chemotherapy. And it's like, brother, don't you know chemotherapy is intravenous? Like, it's not.
It's also slightly positive. Last I checked.
Right.
Supposed to help. But then we meet the Spencer family with the terrifying child. It says immediately Biden is a child molester. This kid's 9, maybe 9.
Talking about like even if you truly believe in this stuff, and even if it were true, like you want this, these are the things that you would love to shield your child from knowing. Like
you would protect your child from this kind of evil if you thought and knew it existed.
They're molesting children and they're drinking their blood to stay young, kind of shit.
Clinton and Obama are child molesters. There are Rothschild vampires. There's a submarine to Epstein Island.
These are quotes from a kid.
Yeah, these are quotes from a 9-year-old.
Yeah, from a 9-year-old.
And then we cut scenes to them playing board games with his siblings and the filmmaker, and it's very sweet.
He goes to the family's house.
Yeah.
He goes to the family's house and interviews them, interviews them in their home setting. We get a little bit more of the jargon from the kid, but for the most part, he smartly shows just how
bullshit the keyboards are.
Well, how much brainwashing, and just how much it just you feel bad because like these kids just almost had no say in what kind of information was handed to them.
Yeah, I mean, and just as much as like kids don't get to decide like what their socioeconomic background is, they also don't get to decide how insane their fucking parents are.
Yeah. It sucks, man.
I mean, and like
they're out there, they're willingly taken out of school because they refuse to wear a mask. And I know we're at this point in history, we're mostly past the mask thing. Like, I mean, it's just what it is.
And yeah, we have a friend that got COVID for the very first time in 3 years this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. At the time, there was so much unknown, right?
Yeah.
And there was not a vaccine. Even with people who don't get vaccinated now, it's a little bit. We just understand more about it.
We understand the variants aren't as severe. Like the virus itself has evolved to be less severe and more transmissible. Yeah. It's the way viruses evolve. We could talk about COVID till we're blue in the face.
Sure.
These people didn't want to send their kids to school,
and they were. But they also, here's the other bad part: they weren't homeschooling them either.
Yeah.
So these kids are just kind of sitting there and they're just marinating in Q world.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of their education at this point in the documentary anyway.
Yeah, it's sad. Then the filmmaker goes on to make the observation that he's really he went into one of the like government housing areas and starts talking to some of the people around there, some of the police brutality that's gone on. A Wendy's got burned down.
A guy got killed in the Wendy's parking lot by cops.
And, you know, the people that were around there, that he talked to them, talked to the kids in their community, started asking them what they wanted to be when they grew up. And their struggles were a lot different than the Q family's struggles. Like, they had friends getting shot and getting robbed. They wanted to grow up to be ball players to get out of their situation. Like,
my favorite kid was the kid was just like, I just want to be myself.
He did say that. I was
like, that's great. And then, you know, like you mentioned, you had the one heartbreaking thing of the kid talking about his cousin getting shot, and he just wants to hug him. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I almost cried.
Destroyed me, man.
So yeah, the filmmakers makes the observation that he's really seeing the people he has the time, like he's able to interview at these rallies, have the free time and financial stability to take off, use travel expenses, and go to this shit, to bullshit around and basically like
yell about a bunch of stuff that might not happen.
Role play.
That probably won't happen.
Role play freedom fighters.
Yeah, and he also made another good point. He's like I was making the observation that these kids are growing up in government housing only a couple of miles away from where the Spencer family is, who are worried about lizard people stealing their children and killing them and drinking their blood, where these people here are just trying to figure a way out of poverty, how to make ends meet, stuff like that. And then that led to his broader point of like, he just saw the disparity and the ridiculousness of going to a million MAGA march where people come in, they're able to fly in, like you said, take time off work and hang out in Washington D.C. for a few days.
And he made all these observations, noted, you know, we have a country too that's suffering from extremely poor informational literacy. Like,
oh, terrible.
We saw that same 9-year-old boy, and I didn't even note this, but I remember it very clearly. He's sitting at the table with his siblings and his parents. This is the Q family, and talking to the filmmaker, and he goes, in my research, and we constantly joke about that statement. And this boy, in all seriousness, this 9-year-old felt he had done real research on all of this. And, you know, right after that's when the you know, he brought up poor informational literacy is a huge thing. The QAnon board that kid's dad showed him was literally just Photoshop blocks. Like,
like it's just terrible Photoshop, misspelled words, just
I mean, like clip art from the internet just plugged behind Anderson Cooper's head, and they're like, look, he's a demigorgon. Like,
so he said everything has significance and meaning behind it. He goes, I see human sacrifice is misspelled here. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, there's a reason behind it.
But he was like attributing it like Anderson Cooper put it out as a press release. Like, this is my newest painting. Like,
that's what all the Q messages
it's my new
like.
Self-portrait, guys. Figure out what you want from it. Do you think I'm running a cabal? Like,
it's insane, man. That rabbit hole is so deep. They don't treat it as
like some fucking rando put 16 pictures layered on each other in Photoshop and just typed some words on top of it and threw it out there as a meme. Like, it's never approached like that. Anyway, so it just we were talking about like the derision between the media before, and I just made a comment like after seeing these two families but two like neighborhoods essentially almost, with a bunch of kids involved, with a bunch of child appropriate opinions on one side, in my opinion, and then insane conspiracy theory just embedded and brainwashed into children on the other side. But those kids were still acting like kids. Like we noted, they were playing board games, they were being silly, like they really just wanted to play, but like they are being indoctrinated at this point. And like I just made a note, and it's one of those like observations I've heard many times before, but it's society, like a society where men plant trees they will never sit under, is like and I can't even remember the whole quote, but it's like that concept is like the only way it works, and it's what always sticks with me. And we never do that. Like, it's almost like all these evil bastards don't have any kids, but they almost always do. Like, I don't get it.
It's the same idea behind someone who doesn't care about the environment because they're not going to be here.
But like the Koch brothers have kids.
it.
Alex Jones has kids. Like Donald Trump has kids. Like, I don't get it. Like,
but we all know full and well there's a wide spectrum of how much you care about those kids.
That's fair. That's fair.
You know, when you're completely consumed with making money, everything else is just in the background. You know?
Yeah. Well, I noted next he's dancing on stage at some rally.
He went to the second Million MAGA March.
I noted that the tan suit uniform is pretty on point. I like it.
Yeah, it's always been sharp.
It's a good idea.
You don't see many tan suits anymore.
No, not at all. It instantly ages you,
especially on white guys around our age.
Yeah. Instantly ages you. You instantly look like you have clout from the 70s when you wear a tan suit for some reason.
Yeah.
So we now come to white rapper number 2, but I misnumbered, and technically he's white rapper number 3 because don't forget our guys that introed the show. Then we got our teacher. Now we got this dude, and he is. I'm mad at this man because he stole my fucking con.
What's his name? Like Forlazio Blow?
I couldn't even write it down. It was so nonsensical.
Something Blow.
He's got like 1 million followers almost, or something. He's very popular apparently. He's literally his biggest single to date, we noted in the last credits, was a "Let's Go Brandon" song.
Yeah, had over 2 million views before it got taken down from YouTube.
That's right. So yeah, he described himself as more as a hustler. He thinks of Donald Trump as more of a hustler than a political figure, and that's why he fucks with him.
Yeah. and even go ahead.
He said he cleaned up his act to appeal to Christians, and
to appeal to Trump supporters. Yeah,
one in that saying. And I put a note: "Motherfucker stole my hustle grift."
Yeah, they even like one of the last.
I've been talking about starting a mega church like that for forever.
Well,
I'm not rapping them.
One of the things he said right when they were getting ready to cut away from him is like, "Oh yeah, before 2016, I wasn't a Republican."
That was my next note. Says he wasn't a Republican before 2016. Gained over 100,000 followers in 2 to 3 months after the election. Then we get Roger Stone and some Proud Boys at a rally. Fuck them all. Anybody interested in a new podcast, listen to all of this one first, please. But the Behind the Bastards podcast is one I've been binging a lot lately. I really have enjoyed it. It's a functioning alcoholic telling you the story of a bunch of dickheads in history and lots of context behind it. He actually does some decent research. He's not a PhD or anything like that. Don't think you can go do your dissertation on it, but it's fun. Lots of sarcasm, and
he writes really well. He's got good. He pretty much. It's kind of neat because does he have different people on every time, or is it the same group that's on there with him?
I mean, he's got a lot of rotating people, but it's like they come on a lot. Like each of his guests has been on several times.
Kind of like this one where I've got my stable of people I go to. So essentially, he writes a really well. Like he does his research and he writes a pretty good commentary or a monologue. And he starts reading it, and then they'll stop and comment on it along the way. Essentially,
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
really
good.
Fantastic episode on Roger Stone. I highly recommend.
I've only listened to the KKK one.
Oh, that one's good too.
Pretty good.
I listened to one today that we're gonna have a mention of a little bit later. But his Roger Stone episode's great. His Paul Manafort episode's great. The Epstein episodes are pretty damn good. But he goes all over the world too. It's not just American politics. There's a great episode on what's his fuck in the Philippines?
Duerte.
This
episode brought to you by Behind the Bastards, apparently.
No. But I mean, anyway, the reason I bring this up is because I started listening to those episodes when they started back in I started at the beginning, and they were airing them in 2017, and they were it was all ramping up to what's happening into this
civil discourse was going on.
It's also relevant, and there's so many, and I'm going to talk about one of their episodes a little bit later. I'd already planned to, because there's a marketing genius that basically led us to where we are today and how this all started, that they covered in an episode I listened to today in a 2-parter. And he's basically who Don Draper's based on. And it's just we don't learn from history ever. And we just repeat it constantly. And I know that's super fucking cliche to say, but like, we're just
that's why it's a saying. Like, that's why we're
all real dumb.
That's why it's been said for so long, is because it's just, there's just instance after instance where it's happened. And it's just, I think that's just the human trap that we're in. I think that's honestly the reason behind the movie, like a movie like The Matrix, where it's like, no, it's just going to start over again. Like you can't, you can only have the good times for so long. There's got to be bad times to allow there to be good times. Sadly, it sucks.
Bullshit. Like, I'll go watch The Good Place and get to the last season and be like, I bet I can stay in that bar longer than the rest of y'all. But Roger Stone's a son of a bitch, if anybody was wondering. And then I noted all these bitches are just happy for attention. Like,
oh yeah,
nobody standing on that stage gives a shit about what they're saying. They barely know what they're saying. Nobody's got a script. They literally are all just like, the second that camera turns on, my bank account starts turning up. Like,
well, yeah, they get their ego stroked. You know, they get to yell a couple of incoherent things and have people go.
I watched Alex Jones
start a couple chants.
Yeah, I watched Alex Jones carry that megaphone through the first like million mega march. He had never been happier in his entire fucking life. All eyes were on him. He was the leader of a movement.
25% of his speeches were starting just random chants. USA, 1776, like all that stuff.
Yeah. I said, oh yeah, and that Enrique dude said they were all smiling because they were all enjoying this. And I said,
yeah,
you bored, privileged bitches.
Yeah.
That's my next note.
They can, and at this point, keep in mind, Callaghan's already put into our head, they can enjoy this because they can afford to enjoy this too.
And my next note is you tore families apart for your dumb amusement. Like, we know plenty of people. I venture to bet that almost anyone listening to this podcast has a family member they no longer talk to because of the 4-year period that preceded this election. Like,
family, and there's varying degrees of that. You have family members you don't talk to anymore. You have family members you don't talk to in the same way you used to.
That you don't trust.
You keep them at arm's length.
Yeah,
you know, it's just, it sucks. But I mean, it's just, I feel like that's a tough thing because it is so personal, right? Like, it's so personal because so many of your relationships can change over something like that. But I think it's important to whether, no matter what side you're on, you know, no matter who, you know, if you think you're right or whatever, like, it's important to be like, well, I'm at least going to have these lines in the sand. Like, I cannot just sit by and let someone just always be bullshitting, like always be regurgitating shit that they can't back up.
Especially now that we have a child, where we've had this conversation more than once, where we're just like, there's going to be a time in the future where we have to look at someone we care about and say, don't say that shit around my child.
Yep.
Like, and it's going to suck.
It's not going to be fun.
But this is the world we live in now. Thanks to Alex Jones, Roger Stone, several other people. Know who to hate. Wait, this is the whole point. Don't let the media divide us.
I think too, like, there's always been those subjects, like, they haven't always been political, but there's always been those social subjects where you're going to have a moment. I think everyone's got that moment where, like, hey, don't fucking talk about that shit around my kid.
Yeah.
Don't say that while my kid's standing here.
Well, I mean, like
there's always that.
I, like, even as a kid, I had, you know, a relative that super racist, but not in a hateful way, in that, like, polite Southern manner where it's just all dog whistles. Like, it's just all matter of fact, like,
just how they grew up.
It's just how they grew up. It's matter of fact how they view the world. There's bullshit facts. They they might as well be quoting like phrenology bullshit.
Right.
And it's just like, it is.
You remember being young and probably having arguments with them.
I 1000% had arguments, and also would just be like, don't say that. Like, don't say that around me. And so I
don't want to hear that shit. Like, that's the best way to do it. It's like, I don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
Like, why are you talking about that around me?
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway,
it's gonna get uncomfortable. Get ready.
Yeah. So the filmmaker gets COVID. He's got to rest for a little bit.
What a shit time. What a shit time. I talked to my buddy J Pod. He was like, I hate that he got COVID, like when he got COVID.
Yeah.
Because like you just think about what other good shit and people he could have talked to.
I think he had plenty. It's fine.
He had plenty, but it's just kind of like, man, I'm sure in his head he's just like, I want to be there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Then we hit January 5th, and we hit these dumb Proud Boys again, Alex Jones again, 1776 again, and I just made a note. They are desperate to matter.
Oh yeah.
They're so small and insignificant, and they all know that and feel that way, and they are desperate to matter at whatever cost, the cost.
Well, they're also chasing, just like any good politician would, they're also chasing good new buzzwords that they can throw onto shirts to sell more shit. Like that's all it is. Because half of Alex Jones's fucking apparel had 1776 on it. That's why he kept chanting it. He's like, oh, if I get people on board with this, they're gonna want my shirts.
Yeah, and then we hit January 6th, and we get a whole new cast of losers. We got Trump Jr., we got Rudy. Then they start doing video footage from the Capitol breach. Like, it's pretty quick. And people are screaming 70-76. Then filmmaker, great move. They put a camera on the Joker dude again. What's his name?
Joker Gang.
I said, Joker's back. And
he's watching video footage of the insurrection.
Like from the inside of like his bedroom.
He's like, what the fuck these people doing?
Yeah, he's just like these lame assholes are staying like in the velvet rope, which he said, I've been pissing and breaking shit.
Like he's like, what are these guys are acting like they're on a fucking field trip?
Yeah, he said. But I mean, like, to be fair, they did shit on the walls in the Capitol, so it just wasn't on. But still, CNN.
It was oddly orderly for what it was in some portions. Like, just kind of like
all those people, they love like jerking themselves off that they're the party of law and order. Like, they can't be the rioters. They can't be just like Black Lives Matter. Like, otherwise they're just going to be as bad as the rest of them or whatever. Like, they could shit on the walls in the Capitol and fly the Confederate flag in the halls of fucking
there was a sly
American like government buildings. But okay.
There was a sly thing that Callaghan did in leading up to that too. At that second Million MAGA March is where it got kind of violent. Like he said, even the Proud Boys guy said, we're normally very defensive, never offensive. This one was much more offensive. And he highlighted where at one point he said, we're here to support the police in whatever they need, and I'm not going to be putting out a message that we're pro-police. Like, he completely showed the juxtaposition on how fast they just swap it, because that's what their people want to hear.
Yeah, and
that's what the people that are going to be buying their stuff.
On the ground screaming in a police officer's ear, we're on your side, but that doesn't last forever because the cop did something he didn't like all of a sudden.
They went from the thin blue line to yelling in the police's face. Like, it's whatever suits the moment. And that is probably the most human thing that I've learned throughout my life, is like that so many people can default to, this isn't suiting me right now, so it's the worst thing in the world. And so now my position is this, because I was all about it when it was
spoiled thing I can think of.
I was all about it when they were being indifferent to these people over here. Yeah. But now they're being indifferent to me and not treating me special. So fuck them. Like, they can't handle a dose of their own medicine.
No, never. Like, they've never been challenged in their life. They've never had a challenge in their life, most of them. Like, and the people that have had challenges, man, like, it's just still so, like, even if they've had financial struggles and challenges, or addiction struggles and challenges, or like just straight up shit out of their realm of control, like, it's not the same. And anybody that tries to tell me like they're anyway, I might go too far there, but like, it's not the fucking same as being watched every second of your life for just existing.
Oh. And even when there is some of that, like even when there is like an addiction or any kind of thing they have to deal with, it's never their fault. There's never accountability for it.
Yeah.
And it's the social equivalent of the rich brat that's never been told no.
Well, and it seems to me that there's a lot of things that happen, you know, and you know, lower socioeconomic things that are completely out of people's control and not their fucking fault, no matter, you know, where you come from. But it does seem that things that, and like even addiction, like the system is set up for many, many fucking people to fail. Like you hop into a Bastards episode about the oxycodone fucking pan. Like that was pretty much engineered to destroy like large swaths of low income portions of America. So, I mean, there's a lot against everybody that doesn't have money. The point of this movie was to show it's not some of us against the others. Like, and we keep kind of still jumping off track and delving into those little like verses that got slightly laid out, but like weren't laid out necessarily by the filmmaker, but we're digging into them. And I keep reminding myself, I'm like, that's not the point. Like the point is this is all manufactured to distract from the real point, which is these grifters are fucking making money off of us because they're creating hate and division, and we're buying it. Like we are buying into it. We've bought into it through the course of this podcast several times. Like it's so hard to stay on track. It's so hard to stay on message when it comes to like, you don't like Nazis. Like just, hey, when all's said and done, just remember you don't like Nazis, and we make t-shirts that say that just in case you needed that. Like, when all is said and done, you know, just remember, like, the government's poisoning the water. Yeah. And we make t-shirts 1776. And, like, don't forget, you know, these guys hate LGBT people, so be proud of your status. Like, they're just selling you, like, products. It's just capitalism, 1,000%.
These people like to hear this thing so that they'll sit through our commercials.
I mean, it's just like it's just like getting preached to in a church. Yeah. Like there's so many preachers that there's so many atheist preachers out there. People don't even realize it. They do not fucking believe a word they're saying, but they know how to say it, the cadence to say it in, and the words to use that get money rolling in.
Yeah. And how to drive to the bank with the check provided. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Anyway. Okay.
So we're up to the insurrection.
The insurrection.
We're moving through that. He's sick with COVID, just kind of watching it from afar.
Yeah. Joker's back. The second white rapper dude is back. It's got all the hit singles. The Joker makes a great point that all these people are getting clout. Clout means money.
Yep. Clout chasers, man.
Yeah. You made that point a couple times, and then like the filmmaker summed it up nicely with that guy making that comment, and like they opened the movie with the dumbest motherfucker you've ever seen is what you think you're looking at initially, and like he makes this super poignant like observation of like clout means money, exposure means money. Like these bitches are filling their pockets, and you're like, that is all this is. Holy shit!
One of my favorite sayings, because obviously I was streaming on Twitch. One of my favorite sayings on Twitch is when someone tries to slyly like promote someone else, and then be like, oh, look at this person, what this person say, blah blah blah, and it's like no free clout. It's like no free clout in here. Get out of here. Because you give clout to anyone you highlight, like even if you're outraged by them.
It's fucking weird. So filmmaker says, all these people in the riot, like in the insurrection, they fully believe they'd be remembered as patriots. They were led to believe by Alex Jones and Rudy and Don Jr. and Donald Trump and
Enrique
Tarrio and like Tucker Carlson. I fucking remember that motherfucker encouraging shit too. Like just all these people were pushing all these desperate, bored people. Like they're desperate and bored at the same time. It's a weird fucking combination. Like just people desolate and people fine. And like just like last grasps at glory, and people bored with nothing else to do besides show up and be seen. Like
people would love to be remembered, right? You want, like, think about how much you have to do to show up in a history book, right? To show up in a history book and be talked about hundreds of years later, you had to do something so great, right? Or most of the time it was just you were just a terrible person.
There's some quote, I don't remember who said it. It ended up in like one of my high school like quote books or some shit, and it's like something like good girls are rarely remembered or something like that.
Oh, good. What is it?
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Well-behaved women rarely make history.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes for lots of people.
Yuck.
It's I mean, you can say yuck all you want to because it's basic white bitch shit, but
it's true.
You just say yuck because you've heard it a bunch of times. It's literally the same fucking thought process that applies to the thing we were just saying.
I say yuck because like people would probably throw that quote under
a bumper
Oprah.
Sticker
under Oprah's picture.
Farting.
Oh, one of the dogs is letting him loose.
Blech.
They
Anyway.
both just pooped too.
Blech. All right.
We're trying to speed in. Go ahead.
I don't know. Let's see. The Enrique guy got arrested before January 6th.
The day before.
The day before, because he burned a BLM flag, which is kind of a bullshit thing to get arrested for. And then they kind of make the point that he may have gotten arrested on purpose, so he couldn't be accused of participating in the actual insurrection.
Well, they talked about being an informant and being someone who's cooperating.
That's what I was about to hit.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. They said he has a history of informing. Sorry, the dogs just made me throw up in my mouth with.
Oh no.
Blech. And after history of informing, I just wrote R-A-T.
Rat.
He's a fucking rat. That's exactly what he is. He's selling T-shirts to both sides. He's informing with the cops. Like, he's a fucking rat. Like, have fun with that, guys.
100%.
Alex calls everybody from QAnon after the insurrection Q-tards. Super fun nickname. That's,
Oh, and he's already on the defensive, distancing himself from the whole thing.
That's what I'm getting at is like, now no longer is QAnon right about everything. They're Q-tards. Like, there's their Nigerian Scams 5.0. He explains the definition of the name info wars, information wars, not real wars, not violent wars, but I didn't call for a coup. I just talk about them a lot. I'm not physically responsible. They're just words. My notes. Then we go back to that family and the kids who were previously brainwashed. Like, we talked about it, and we paused there because we both had to pee, and we both were just like, it's so wild how like easy it is to brainwash kids. And you were like, yeah, like we just see how suggestible our child is when we just like tell her, hey, this is the way something is. And she's like, okay. And I mentioned,
she locks it in that little brain.
That's what it is. Mommy and daddy said so. And I said, well, we can say the same thing for some young adults we know. And I said, it's genuinely one of my greatest fears as a parent to accidentally like brainwash my kid like that.
Or just to have them meet someone that will do the same.
I said one of my greatest fears. That one's up there too.
Yeah.
Then you got the guy that like shot his family of 8 too in Utah yesterday. So there's another one. I got a bunch of fears about this kid, y'all. Kids are scary. Let's see. The 9-year-old mentioned his research level. He then said he disbelieved Q, and the 9-year-old observed that he believed they wanted everyone divided, and
he was let down. He asked me, were you let down after you found all this? He's like, yeah, I was let down.
Yeah.
And then he showcased how much time he missed with his father.
Yep.
Because his father, he spent a ton of time out in his garage watching Q stuff,
on his phone in the driveway. Yeah. And we started talking about how the kid, like, the father, thankfully, was also like, yeah, I think we got duped. But he didn't say duped. I think it wasn't true. I think it's as far as he would go with it.
He did a pretty good job of not entrenching like some people would.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of like you could tell he knew he'd been duped, but he's like kind of still coming to grips with it.
But we still know people that were totally on board with every Q like conspiracy we have ever heard that are still walking around in Let's Go Brandon shirts.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like, that will not let go of anything. And like you mentioned, you're like, it's so wild how fast that kid, like, it was just like, we got duped. And I mentioned to you the sunk cost fallacy. And I think it is harder for people who are older to have put time into something and realize that time was wasted. Whereas if you're new to the planet and you don't realize your own mortality, you're just like, oh shit, we were wrong. Moving on.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think that was bullshit. We're going to get out of here. Like,
yeah.
I think that that's an important skill to hang on to as you get older, is to be like, look, sometimes shit just doesn't work out and it's not exactly what you thought it was. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's many things in your life and in my life where I've put time into doing something, like going to school for a skill, and it just didn't work out.
Going to college for a degree right here.
Right. And then like all of a sudden that doesn't pan out. Right. You know, it's just, you have to like kind of like deal with it, have your time where you're pissed about it, and just move on. Like, it's just not going to change anything.
Yeah. Well, then your talking heads hop on and they start comparing, the liberal talking heads, I should say, the lefties. They start comparing Pearl Harbor, 9/11, and January 6th all on the same terms, which you took big offense to.
I didn't take big offense to it. I just think it's like,
you thought it was ridiculous. I
understand the historic. All right, I understand the historicness behind it, but I don't think that the severity to human life was nearly the same. It's not comparable in that way.
No, completely agree with you on that. But in that moment when it first happened, you're like, that's fucking ridiculous. And I stopped and said, while not nearly as many people were killed, like, this is a significant moment in American history. This is the first coup attempt on the American government, like, at the Capitol by American citizens. Yeah. And like, that didn't even happen in the Civil War. Like, but I think at this point we understand the machine, right? The machine of the media, the machine of, you know, the machine of the politics. Like, they're like, how, like, as good as that, as well intentioned as that shit that was supposed to be. All I can see is like someone being like, let's get our side fired up. The next note I have is the left milked it.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. The My Pillow guy has something to say. The right immediately distanced themselves, and then I hate Tucker Carlson.
They were just touring. It was just a tour group that got a little rowdy.
Then we meet back up with the Inglorious Patriot, who doxed 500 plus people in a new YouTube video that were anti-fascists at the Capitol riots by his claims.
We're going to dox Antifa people.
Then he put a disclaimer in his video that said, sorry if we're wrong and you're not an actual Antifa.
if you're named here and you're not actually Antifa,
sorry, mistakes.
Apologize.
Yeah, we apologize. Sorry we ruined your life, possibly. Then the filmmaker holds up pictures of Oprah, Clinton, Obama, Biden, and Jonah Hill. And the Inglorious Patriot dubs them all pedos. I don't know if he abbreviates it. Does he say full on pedophile? I can't.
Oh, he said pedophile, and then he's like, and then when he got the bite, he said a full chomo, like blah 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 blah. He's like, what's a chomo? He's like, oh, that's jailhouse term for a child molester.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that. I think I was taking too furious of a notes. So right after he flashes the Jonah Hill picture, Jonah Hill's accused of being a pedophile. The filmmaker brings up the arrest record of our Inglorious Patriot, who's not allowed to leave the state of North Carolina again. I love pointing that out. With the date May 19th, 1999, he had sexual pedophilia charges filed against him for an 8-year-old boy.
He pled guilty.
He pled guilty because he said he knew he couldn't win, and his mission against pedophiles is revenge. It's going to bring down the entire cabal.
And then Andrew Callaghan asks him, do you know what projection is? Like, were you projecting? And he's like, no. So
Andrew Callaghan says, a really poignant thing. I like the statement, so I'm just going to quote it back. He says, these people are looking to assign meaning to a broken life. And they have failed themselves or been failed by the world.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, that's it. I mean, that's pretty spot on. Like, and they take the for-profit industry of pitting people against each other and roll with it. So, to bring up that other Bastards episode that I listened to today, it was an episode on Edward Bernays, who's a guy that's like the mastermind behind like women smoking cigarettes. Like the mastermind behind the Chiquita banana, like breakfast is a huge, like bananas are a huge part of the American diet because of this guy. Bacon is a huge part of the American diet because of this guy. He wouldn't let his like family eat that shit and wouldn't let his wife smoke. But he was like telling women like reach for a Lucky instead of a treat, like kind of stuff. He tried to steal an American election with the same shit that worked in the 26th election by splitting the party, like splitting the opposing party, a la Bernie and Clinton votes, like, and encouraging once the third party candidate didn't get the nomination for write-in ballots or to stay home and don't vote, like all those tactics we saw employed in 2016 and 2020. And, like he failed at it against FDR, but like his methods were really, really effective. Not just here, in several places. He's the like godfather of marketing and ruined the fucking world. And then we get the wonderful song, the Scallywagger Dagger.
The Scallywagger Dagger.
And the quote, this is a close,
from Joker Gang.
Yeah, this is a closeout from the whole movie. Let's see. You broke my heart and fucked all my friends. That was my favorite line. It's a rap song. I'm not going to rap it.
It's just emo.
It sounds that good rapping.
Still emo though.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. So we talked about, the uncomfortable like afterwards, we talked about the uncomfortable silences that Andrew Callaghan can leave in the air. The first to speak loses.
Mm.
And I was lamenting to you that I can do that at my job. Like I'm good at giving those types of interviews for work purposes.
Yeah.
I cannot just do that in real life. It's so hard to do with people I like, whose opinions I value, whose approval I seek, whose friendship I like, so hard to do.
That's the one.
It would feel manipulative with friends if I did that, but like, you know what I mean?
That's the one thing I'm like, that's one trait that I know I have that I feel like I'm very comfortable with, like acknowledging, is like being able to walk into a room and survey what's going on, right? And then kind of getting into it. Some people walk in and want to immediately start socializing. It's like, I'd rather kind of see what the deal is and just kind of feel things out,
I'm the immediate socializer. I'm the, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. Yeah, that person.
Do you want to get into the Hassan thing? We kind of hit like all that stuff.
Yeah, I think we kind of brought it up through this. So
yeah, we did. I think we'll just be repeating ourselves, but amazing movie. I feel like we should do this with more documentaries.
Sure. Started earlier in the night. I'm tired.
Yeah, I know. I was trying. It's a little late. We're going to get some sleep, but I'm glad you guys could join us for this. Krista, thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. At Lopez Radio for the social medias, and I stream on Twitch Sunday and Wednesday nights, sometimes more, but I would love for you guys to stop by. But follow me on the social medias and rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, lopezradio.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great evening, day, year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.